Injury bug strikes again, and this time it's due to Cubs mismanagement. I'm angry, y'all. Let's talk about it. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I am your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. Appreciate you guys so much. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss another episode of Chicago Cubs Central right here on the channel. Listen, guys, first and foremost, before we even get to tonight's topic and subject, the Chicago Cubs lost. I'm sorry, not Chicago Cubs. Chicago in general lost a media giant, literally and figuratively, in the pro sports podcasting, broadcasting role. That is one Stacey King. I had the pleasure actually of meeting Stacey King on two separate occasions. Once when my cousin took me to a Bulls game. We sat two rows behind the Chicago Bulls bench, but before the game, you was able to go down to your seats, meet the players, and meet coaching staff. And like I said, I also was able to walk over. This is at the time when Neil Funk was still working too. I got a chance to meet Neil Funk. I got a chance to meet Chuck Swirsky, and I got a chance to meet Stacey King. I actually told Stacey King, this is the time he was playing guys online for money for 2K. I got a chance to make a joke with him. It was just like, "Hey, Stace, I want a rematch on 2K." And he laughed about it. And like I said, he was a super cool guy. But more importantly than anything else, Stacey King was the glue that really held you to the Chicago Bulls. Out of everything that went on, from those COVID years to the Lloyd marketing and Jim. I can't remember his name, Jim whatever. It was Jim Boylan. There we go. From the Jim Boylan years and all of the bad that went down after the Bulls traded away Derrick Rose and traded away Jimmy Butler and did all of those different things. The Chicago Bulls still at this time, meant something. And Stacey King, and then credit to Adam Amin coming in and replacing Neil Funk, both really made you care about the Chicago Bulls. But Stacey King is the soundtrack of my Chicago Bulls fandom, with what he was able to bring to the table and make you want to watch Chicago Bulls basketball throughout those Derrick Rose years, the Jimmy Butler years, and then the subsequent years after. Suddenly passed away. We got news Sunday morning. So I just want to take a moment of silence, and I want to just in remembrance and respect for Stacey King. All right, so let's get down to business. Okay, so Chicago Cub fans, I want you guys to know something. I'm very angry, very, very angry. And if the reports are true that Jameson Taillon was already dealing with hamstring issues and discomfort before taking the mound Sunday night to go up against the Giants, I'm really, really upset with the Chicago Cubs management. Somebody inside this organization needs to answer some serious questions, because this isn't just about losing starting pitchers. This is about accountability, which is something that I'm finding we don't have a lot of in this organization. Now, you've had points come out in the last few weeks, talking subjects and topics come out in the last few weeks, and people have said that, Craig Counsell has been getting on guys, especially the guys that are getting the fat contracts, been getting on guys about their performance and being leaders and leading the team. And you've seen Dansby Swanson benched for his performance and the way that he's performed and played as of late. But for me, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the decision making. And guys, I want you guys to think about this. The Chicago Cubs, I do not believe, are protecting their players. And what do I mean by that? I mean, Jameson Taillon made it one inning. One. Then in the second inning, he walks a batter, calls for assistance, and leaves the game with a strained left hamstring. So here's my question. If they were already warning signs before first pitch, why was he out there? And Cubs fans, that's the conversation nobody should be avoiding right now. You know, you look at it and like this. Sometimes injuries are bad luck, but when injured players keep ending up on the field injured, bad luck becomes a question of leadership. I just want to know where their minds are at with this whole situation with protecting their players. You know, the bigger story in this is who allowed this to happen. So the Cubs enter Sunday already battling pitching issues. Matthew Boyd is still currently on the injured list, even though he is back with the team. Justin Steele is gone. Cade Horton is gone. The Cubs have spent much of 2026 trying to survive with a battered pitching staff. Reports from earlier this season indicated roughly a third of the organization's pitching staff have landed on the injured reserve list at least once. Guys, that's an issue. And now Jameson Taillon leaves after one inning. Think about this. The Cubs are not losing depth pieces. They're losing important pieces. They're losing rotation stability. They're losing innings. And eventually, that all catches up to a baseball team. You want to know how you go on a 10-game losing streak? Have a bunch of people get injured. That's how you go on a 10-game losing streak. Have a bunch of people not be able to perform or not be able to do their job. That's how you go on a 10-game losing streak. Now, let me be very clear. Nobody can prevent every injury, but baseball players get hurt. Hamstrings happen. Elbows happen. Shoulders happen. All of these things happen. However, here's where I have the issue. If Taillon was already dealing with this issue before the game and the organization knew about it, then somebody made a terrible decision by still sending him out there. The training staff evaluates him. The coaching staff talks with him. Management receives information. Craig Counsell receives information. And at some point, somebody has to say, oh, yeah, he's good to go. Really? Good to go? Because he lasted one freaking inning. You know, if your player cannot finish the second inning, he probably wasn't ready for the first. And that's why Cubs fans deserve answers. Who cleared him? What did they know? When did they know? And why was the risk considered acceptable? Now, before people start accusing me of overreacting, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Cubs fans have watched the pitching staff get shredded by injuries. Justin Steele, Matthew Boyd, Cade Horton, multiple relievers, multiple depth arms. And now, folks, Jameson Taillon. At some point, fans stop asking, why are we unlucky? And they start asking, are we doing something wrong? And guys, I'm going to be quite honest with y'all. That's a fair question to ask right now. Because of the goal of a training staff isn't simply treating injuries, it's preventing injuries. The best injury report, y'all, is one that never happens. And right now, the Cubs keep finding themselves talking about injuries instead of wins. I keep finding myself having to talk about episodes talking about injuries. And guys, this means the rotation takes another hit. Now, albeit, Javier Assad came in and pitched a hell of an inning of 7 shutout innings of baseball for the Chicago Cubs, holding the San Francisco Giants to just that same one run that Jameson gave up. But still, like I said, you look at this and you say to yourself, why do these injuries keep happening? And what does this mean for the rotation? For the rotation, this means that, they struggle again. Taillon had thrown over 50 innings this season with an ERA hovering around 5 and have been a critical source of innings despite inconsistent results. The Cubs can't simply replace those innings overnight, guys. So who fills the gap? Javier Assad is obvious short-term answer. after already being recalled, I'm not having a conversation with Jordan Wicks. I don't want Jordan Wicks back up on the main roster, not anymore. The Cubs may need to get creative. And if this injury and turns into a lengthy absence, Jed Hoyer may have no choice but to go back on his word and explore the trade market much sooner than expected. Because here's the reality. You cannot lose this many pitchers and expect to contend. Eventually, the depth runs out. But here's my biggest takeaway. Jameson Taillon's injury isn't the story. The story is trust. Do Cubs fans trust the organization to make the right decisions regarding player health? Because right now, I'm not really sure that they do. I know I don't. And every new injury makes these questions get even louder. If Taillon was healthy and suffered a freak injury, y'all, that's just baseball. Chalk it up to the game. But if warning signs existed before the game and he still took the mound, that's not bad luck. That's organizational failure. I don't know. We'll know more, but the Cubs owe Cubs fans answers. The Cubs owe their players better. And right now, this front office, coaching staff, and medical department need to explain how another important pitcher ended up leaving the game before the second inning was ever completed. Because if this could have been prevented, guys, somebody failed. And Cubs fans deserve to know who. Now, I know I'm sure in the next coming hours we'll know more from Craig Counsell. But still, I want to hear from you guys. If the Cubs knew Taillon was dealing with a hamstring before the game, then who deserves the blame in this? The medical staff? Craig Counsell? Jed Hoyer? Or is it simply bad luck? Do me a favor and drop your comments in the section below. And as always, go Cubs go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.